100% bonus depreciation is officially back. And if you're a high income earner making over $400,000 per year, short-term rentals are the best way to get into real estate and get massive tax savings. However, the one thing that's going to get in the way for everybody doing this is, will the property actually cash flow? How can I be certain that the gross income is going to be so significantly higher than the total monthly expenses all in every single month, every single year, so that I feel good about the property paying for itself every single year? So I just got off a call with 15 clients, walking them through our internal process that we follow to find hundreds of cash flowing deals every single year and pair them up with clients, starting with finding the property, going through AirDNA, looking at a formula called yield, figuring out comps, looking at the 50th, 60th, 70th, 80th percentile in the entire submarket, and finding out what property types are going to be the best performers, how is everything else in the market doing, where are our expenses going to be annually every single year, and then looking at these specific percentiles in AirDNA, how do we see other similar properties performing, and do we have this insanely high confidence interval of recognizing that in the worst case scenario, our monthly income and our annual income is going to at least be high enough to cover our monthly and annual expenses. So check out this lengthier video, and if you're interested in working with the team, click the link somewhere around this video to schedule. Otherwise, give us a like and subscribe, and then enjoy this video breakdown that we did for a few clients. All right, guys, so the team found this really cool spot in Sevierville, Tennessee. It's actually in an area that we've looked at a couple other spots. So I've already done the underwriting on other homes in this area, but I'm going to take you guys through as if I were doing this, like literally as if somebody on our team had just discovered the Zillow listing. So let's pretend I'm on Zillow and I were somebody on our team who were looking for this, and we were looking throughout this area, right? So the team is like combing through neighborhoods. We're setting our parameters for, we want to look at least 4 or 5 bedroom homes. We don't personally care about the purchase price range. I'll just put a random like upper limit on here. We can do stuff in like the 1.4, 1.5 million range out here. But what we're typically starting with is, we know that 4 bedrooms are going to convert a lot better than 3, 5s are going to convert a lot better than 4s. So we're starting to like put together a list of this stuff. And then we, quickly go through here and we start looking at stuff, and it's like, oh, okay. We have cabins, we have stuff that's a little more inland. We know the areas that we want to focus on. And let's say theoretically, I just found this one. Okay. So I'm clicking into the listing. I see that it's 4 bedrooms. I see that's got plenty of square feet. So I know we can comfortably sleep 2 people per bedroom, plus probably some of the bedrooms we can fit in bunk beds. So we can maybe squeeze 4 people into one room. We can probably, just looking at the space in here, we could probably have bunk beds somewhere else, or somewhere else meaning like somewhere in like a living room, or what we can do are have like rollout beds. So the first thing I always want to get clear on is, I look at the bed bath count, I look at the square footage, and then what I'm going to do immediately is go to a yield calculation. So with 90% certainty, if we hit at least a 15% yield, which means we take the purchase price, we multiply that by 15%. This is going to give us a value annually, what we want the home to be able to do. Well, really quickly, I can go in, pull up AirDNA, and then start building out a little comp analysis around this property to know whether or not I see stuff in the 60th to 70th percentile based on the little submarket analysis that I do, where they're doing at least 115, 120, 125,000 per year. So that's going to be my first order of operation if I were somebody on my team. So I'm going to run you guys through exactly how we would do this if we were doing it from scratch, which we've already done. So this home probably passes this litmus test. So I grab the address and I pull up Google Maps, so I know exactly where this one is. Cool, we've actually recognized this river before, so we know where some of the stuff is. So we've got Sevierville here, Pigeon Forge. I'm like due west of Pigeon Forge, just on the edge of some of the like forest area, right? So when I build my map, I'm going to go and just type in the zip code. I'm going to start by going to that specific short-term rental market. And within 2 to 3 minutes, if I were doing this without like recording myself and like showcasing for clients, how are we doing this? I would be able to immediately just go into the map. I'm going to make this full screen so I get a little more screen real estate. I would go into this map because I know where I need to be. Again, Pigeon Forge. I'm due west of here, so I know where the edge of this is. I want to map accordingly. So what I'm going to do first, just so that there's less stuff occupying my screen, I'm going to filter to 4 bedrooms, and then I'm only going to look at stuff that's also been live for, close to like 10, 11, 12 months of the last 365 days. So I'm going to first apply that, get rid of everything that's not a 4-bedroom, get rid of everything that's for sale here. And then I'm also going to start looking at performance. So I want to see, for the time being, I'll look at everything that's been live for 271 days. If I wanted to get a little more scrutinous, I could remove everything that has fewer than 10 reviews, which I think I can do. So that also gets rid of like newer listings that maybe launched last year. I just want to get, as tight of a, comp box as possible. So now what I'm going to do, again, I'm looking at the map. And again, if I weren't diving into this and training, I could do this in literally like 60 to 90 seconds. So I'm going to this intersection and then just go and due west of Pigeon Forge. So I've got this zoomed in here. Got Pigeon Forge. And then we're right around here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in. And what I like to do is I like to see, depending upon the like density of the volume of homes that are available in that area, I try and just manually draw a box that's closer to like 8 to 15 homes. If it's like Kissimmee or Davenport, Florida, or Panama City Beach, where like everything out there is a 4 or 5 or 6 bedroom home, I might draw an even tighter box. But for this one, I think what I'm going to do is just, God, this new AirDNA user interface launch really annoys me. Brian, how do I, dude, I had to do this yesterday too. I'm trying to just draw my box, but I don't have the feature in front of me right now, which is super annoying. Drawer I am. It's because I'm logged into my personal one. That would probably help. Okay. It's like, dude, AirDNA, just let me stay logged in to our paid account where we pay $25,000 a year to get access. All right. So scramble, scramble, scramble. Thanks for sticking with us. Don't worry. This video will be worth it. This one's a banger. You guys are going to like this. All right. Okay. So I'll recreate the process. So again, now that I know where my area is, I just get to go into Seaverville. This one's already got a drawn box. So I'll do redraw as if I were starting this from scratch. So again, get rid of everything for sale. Go and focus on 4 bedrooms, 10 plus. Okay, let's apply that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is always filter for performance. So for this one, where I start, I'm just going to look at, I don't care about anything else except the days available. I mean, there should be enough here. Here, I'll just do all reviews so I can actually apply something. Okay. And then where I'm going is, so I know the intersection for the highway interstate. Okay. So I got Pigeon Forge here. I'm going to start. So I'm right in, again, you can see the area. So this little inlet right here. So it's all these homes in this area. What I'll do just for the time being is let me start just with this little cluster. And if I need to expand out, I will do that. So I'm going to zoom all the way out. And now here's my litmus test. Okay. So what I want to look for is I want to know what is the, let's start with something really easy. Let's just look at the 50th percentile in this area. So let's go to listings. Okay. And I'm literally going to go, here's the 0 to 10th percentile. Here's 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40%, 40 to 50%, 50 to 60%. Okay. So I'm seeing a floor here. I'm seeing a floor that clearly indicates if we launch this property and we don't really nail anything about the design, the management, nothing, probably a lowercase scenario is this home is going to do probably no less than 90 to 100 grand a year, which is a good sign because my expenses on this home are right around 90. So if I were on my own team underwriting this deal for the very first time, I would be sounding our internal bat signal or ringing the bell and saying, hey, I think we've got something that can likely perform, which is a really, really good sign because again, there are 10 listings in this area. This one is the 90th to 100th percentile. This is 80th to 90th. This is 70th to 80th. And this is 60th to 70th. Building out a little box of competitive homes. And the number happens to be 10. So what I train the team to do is we look at and see, hey, this home is in the 90th to 100th percentile because it's the 10th home or the number one performer on the list. This one is the 90th. This is 80th, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20th, and then 0 to 10th percentile. So when we look at homes number 5 and 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, what we see here is each of these homes, they actually had really good numbers. They were only available for 10 months out of the year. They each did 86,000, 87,000 per year. if they were live for those additional 2 months, and it looks like the 2 months that they didn't have this live were also during their peak seasons, they actually did really, really well. So the range was like 50 to 65% occupancy, 430 to 580 per night. So when I made our projections, as you'll see, if you guys actually want to see this video, I literally just underwrote this deal for a client who's probably going to put in an offer today. I think this home can actually do a lot better than this. But that's how you guys, like, dude, even if you guys don't work with us, I am very pro real estate. Do it on your own. Do it with somebody else's team. I don't like seeing people who stay stuck. We, are very relationship driven in our business. Like, we see people coming back to us consistently doing more deals because of how impressive the transformation is when you start freeing up your time, not funding $100,000+ a year to inefficient internal revenue services and your state government. I would like to see you guys do stuff. So even if you don't work with us, if all you take from this call and go back to the recording when I release it is just how to know what is the 50th to 60th percentile in this submarket that you're looking at, knowing that confidently, if you see their income numbers are significantly higher than your total annual projected expenses, very, very good likelihood, if you nail the design, nail the revenue driving amenities, and also have a really good co-host, you're cash flowing on this home. Almost 95% certainty. There would have to be something going catastrophically wrong for you to not make it work. Go ahead, whoever took themselves off mute. I just heard somebody breathe as if they were going to chime in. Anything? Going once, going twice? I'll continue. You might have put yourself back on mute. I don't hear anything. Cool. So then what we did is we got into the weeds on looking at just about everything else that was in the area. So, and for those of you guys who are on the call, I'll literally send you my video breakdown. It was like a 35-minute breakdown going through this. This was the number one performer. This one did, I think it was like 180. Oh no, this one did like 250 in the last 12 months, which is insane. And as I was going through this, I was like, they have a couple like intangibles. This is the property in question, by the way. So the property on the left, this is the one that we're going to pair up with the client. This is the one that we were underwriting. This one has a couple intangibles that we can't match. They have a slightly more impressive view, slightly more impressive like 270-degree view. They also have a loft up there, so they can add in stuff that we can't add in. But when we really like boiled it down to what this one and all the other homes have in terms of like being able to compete, I actually really think this home in years 2 and 3 can go way, way, way beyond this income number, especially the upper limit for average nightly rate. When we factor in, and this is going to answer that gentleman's question directly, what are the revenue driving amenities? Like, how do we differentiate? What I spent probably 15 minutes on that video talking about is these are pretty much the 3 main revenue drivers that we see across most markets. When you get into more specific sub-markets, you should actually be able to see, is there a home that has a fire pit? Is there a home that has a putting green? Is there a home that's already installed a sauna? And can you make this like one-to-one connection on how it's actually driving them and differentiating them significantly better than everything else in the area? A really good example of this one is this deal that I think we have a client going under contract on today that I found yesterday. I'm going to play the video breakdown. I'll play it at like 8x speed. So you can just quickly see like, okay, so on this deal yesterday, I did everything that I've just spelled out for you guys. So I built the, competitive analysis. I stacked a bunch of the neighboring properties that are also, I think this one is a 5-bedroom. So I got everything. You can see me drawing that map there. I'll make this thing full screen. And then I started literally going through, well, what are the unique amenities? And I found the percentile, right? So this one, 18 listings. This is 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. So we were looking at homes 12, 13, and 14, recognizing we're going to comfortably fall within here in some capacity. We can probably get closer to 111 and then maybe $5,000 to $10,000 more per year if we really nail some of the revenue driving amenities. And what are they in this market? So you see me like mathing that out. I was like, okay, the number 10.8 home is like the 50th or 60th percentile. And then the home that was number 14, that was I believe the 80th percentile, I think. So when we start going through this, and by the way, the listing on the left is the home in question. This is the one that we're going to pair up with the client. What you'll immediately see here is, look at those 2 revenue drivers. For those who can't see it, there's a mini fire pit sitting right here. That's definitely a revenue driving amenity. And for this home in this submarket in Austin in particular, it's definitely driving revenue to this property. What you'll see around this pool area is it's literally just AstroTurf. And now you can't see it from this overhead drone shot, but they've drilled little mini holes for putting. So you could literally putt your way all around this frickin' thing and then go back and forth. So they have this killer setup. So what I start highlighting in my video breakdown is I spend a lot of time looking at this backyard area. And what you'll immediately recognize is we can't compete with that listing and do 150, 160,000 is what that one did in the last 12 months. And why? Well, because we in our backyard, we don't have any space to turn anything into like AstroTurf and a mini putting green. In our example, we don't have any space to really add in a fire pit area. So there's kind of an upper limit on how aggressively can we compete with the number 1 or number 2 listing in the area. So I'll continue sharing this video and I'll just narrate over it. So what I do throughout the rest of this thing is I'm looking at, the exact same metrics on the other homes in question. So this is the home in question. And then there's another home that I think was the performer that was right after it. And again, is a very similar scenario. They have the pool. We also have a pool. But the things that this other home has that we can't really compete with is they have more of a backyard space. I'm going to try and make this a little higher res so you guys can see this a little bit better. I'll try it in 2K and then you can see. So what I'm doing on the left-hand side, and this is, if you guys work with us, we literally put together 14 to 35-minute videos breaking down why a home will work or won't work, and then specifically diving into the amenities here. So outside of the improvements to backyards, which is typically where I start because you can really differentiate if you add in a putting green, if you add in other unique amenities in the backyard, those go really far in terms of driving revenue. What I'm now doing here is I'm pulling up a design guide that I put together for a lot of clients. And then I start referencing things that a lot of clients do in the interior of the home. So for example, this is still playing. Let me go back to that image on screen where it shows the dining room and living room. And then I'll just pull up the actual design guide here. Oops, I missed it. There we go. Oops. I'm playing this thing too fast. Okay, there we go. Oh my God. Try one more time. Go back 10 seconds here. There we go. Jesus Christ. All right. I think I got it. Almost. There we go. All right. Throw a 6 in the chat if you guys are liking this, or if you want me to move on to another topic, throw 7 in there. So 6 if you want me to stay on this, 7 if you're like, all right, we get it. Revenue driving amenities. We got it. Here's the home in question. So I'm going to pull up my little notepad. And this is where I put together most of the design stuff that I suggest clients add in. Let's drag this over. Let's make this not full screen. So what I'll highlight clients to typically do is some blend of accent walls. So these are definitely, very revenue driving. They're not going to, move the needle quite as much as like adding in amenities in the backyard. But here are examples of clients like geometric 3D paint jobs that either I pulled from other listings or these are some of our clients' listings. So again, just you can see here, paint, tape, literally geometric pattern, multiple colors, very basic stuff. And then on the final listing, it actually looks really, really solid. Vertical wood panels for accent walls. So markets, I gave a list yesterday on our call. Just share this with you guys again. We're certainly doing a lot in Florida. I really like the panhandle of Santa Rosa Beach, Destin, 30A, Miramar Beach right now. There are a lot of assessment fees that are going through the roof for a lot of those listings and a lot of those condos that are older. So a lot of the inventory that is your competition right now, short-term rentals, that's going to get squeezed out. So most of those markets will lose like 15 to 35% of your competition or the inventory for other short-term rental listings, which is great for you because what does that mean? Now the demand for travel out there really hasn't changed. So there's still a high amount of demand, but the volume of supply that you're competing with has significantly dropped. Like a 15 to 35% drop is significant, especially for 4 or 5 or 6 bedroom homes, which is a lot of the stuff that we try to compete with because there's already fewer competition in that specific category. Kissimmee and Davenport, we find a lot of stuff that is just outside of Disney World that we really like. This deal that I was just reviewing was Austin. The one that I did right before that at the start of the call was the Smoky Mountains in Seaverville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. That market is probably going to slide in to our top like 3 to 5 for the rest of the 6 months of the year. It'll probably be those 2 markets in Florida, Austin and Dallas, and then a lot in the Smoky Mountains. The Smoky Mountains in 2022-23, prices were here. 21-22 prices were here. And then things like kind of went up. It just kind of stayed there throughout 23-24. In the last 6 to 9 months, now stuff finally started correcting down. And we're buying probably right around here in this little curve. So we're buying at the bottom or middle bottom of a correction, which is really, really good because that market is probably going to bounce back up pretty aggressively because there are a lot of people who also recognize that this is a great short-term rental market. I'll pause for questions. I'll just go through the chat. And if you guys also want to either take yourself off mute or, man, you guys aren't engaging with me. Nobody threw a 6 or a 7 in there. You guys are making it tough to know am I giving value on this call. Throw me a 9 in the chat if I'm spitting, value and game for you guys. Throw a 3 if like this sucks. And please throw a 3 if you think this sucks, because we're doing this for you. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm hoping that some of you guys work with us. But I want to, give value on the call. Let me go through the other topics. So best markets, I just kind of took a dive into that one. Reverse engineering net effective tax savings. I'll do that in the material participation one next. Bonus depreciation. So for Karen, if you're not 1031ing it, I'll try and build all that in there. The gentleman who asked budgeting for unforeseen expenses. I mean, honestly, don't do real estate if you're broke. I mean, you see my ads and you see our YouTube videos. The call outs are, if you make over $400,000 per year, we're not trying to work with people who can't afford to replace a water heater. If you have to drop $9,000 on a new water heater and then the installation, all in, that might be closer to like 8 to 14 grand, depending upon the size of the water heater. Is it tankless or not? Fortunately, during the inspection reports, we uncover if there's anything that's clearly likely within the next 1 to 3 years that either needs to be replaced or repaired. So roofs, if there are any roof issues, which fortunately for our company and the volume of deals that we've been looking at recently, we don't really see many deals that have roof issues. Oftentimes, we actually are closing on a lot of stuff where the roof has been replaced in the last like 5 to 10 years. And oftentimes, we're seeing metal roofs being installed. And the lifespan on those, unless you guys are living to 120 years old, those things might outlast most of us on this call, which is really good to see. Water heaters, if something is closer to like 30 to 35 years old, then yeah, like any given day, that thing needs to be replaced. So we typically factor that in with what we call a seller credit. We negotiate the seller to pay us back or credit us money back at closing, which reduce our closing costs and our total entry into the deal, so that we can replace that or solve for it when we need to replace it as soon as it happens. The biggest expense items I typically see are people having to deal with HVAC. For example, one of my homes that's in Westminster, Colorado, July 4th weekend, literally 5 days ago. It was Friday, July 4th. I get a message in Slack from my team. I ignore it like I always do, the co-hosting team, because anything under $1,500, I say, you guys just solve it and ask questions later. It's not worth my time, and it's probably not worth your time to really deal in the nitty-gritty of like, hey, should we get the refrigerant replaced or refilled so that the AC actually works in the upstairs portion of the home. Well, they ended up texting me because it was going to be all in like $2,200. The HVAC works fine. It was just installed incorrectly like 12 months ago when we got it replaced last year. It's probably like a $5,000 all-in replacement. No ductwork. I think they just needed to replace like maybe a splitter and then maybe one of the condenser units, if you guys are familiar with how HVAC AC systems work. So yeah, I mean, that was a small capital expenditure, and that's probably the only thing that's over $600 that I need to repair or place on this property throughout the calendar year. And it's a $650,000 home in Westminster. So for budgeting, I would say, the number one thing to do is just make sure you're buying homes that cash flow positive, because then when you have repairs, when you have capital expenditures, when you have maintenance that you need to execute on, you're not like digging into your own piggy bank to fund the repair. And oftentimes, don't close on homes that have shitty inspection reports, just being real. We disqualify 10%, like 1 out of every 10 homes. I still do all the inspection report reviews with clients once they're under contract. I tell them, and sometimes the client and I mutually, like, I'll just call them as soon as I see the report. It's like, hey, I just spent 2 minutes going through this. Like, you have a foundation issue. The roof looks like it's damaged. There was water damage in one of the ceilings. Like, lemon. Like, let's just avoid this one. Anything else? Let's try and do anything, guys, related to properties, markets, property types, revenue driving amenities, anything about maximizing the cash flow or choosing the right home based on like not closing on stuff that has inspection report issues. I'll quickly just ask you guys to unmute so I can get some engagement. So Alex, Amin, Dave, guys, just take yourself off mute. Nick, I see you raise your hand. Just take yourself off mute if you can. I'm going to ask all you guys to unmute here. And then we'll transition into the bonus depreciation stuff, reverse engineering, anything that you guys want to engineer. Going once, going twice.
Hey, Nick. So a couple of questions. So one is, I know you're saying Davenport, Sevierville are markets, so you think there's a lot of opportunity. I've also heard in the past that they were pretty saturated, and it's hard to make revenue there. So that's question one. And then the other one was, so when you're looking at these competitors and you were showing us these outdoor amenity type things, Like how does your average client, like, do you design that for them? And you tell them here's exactly what you need, and here's a vendor who can do that for you? Like, how does that work?
When clients are closing on homes, we'll put together a custom design package, which isn't really like designed for furniture, because typically most of all of the furniture will convey in almost 95% of our deals. Oftentimes, they might replace small stuff. The most aggressive replacement is maybe upgrading like a sofa or a sectional. If it like would really tie the room together, if you could, significantly upgrade something for like 1,500 to 4,500 bucks. But I'll always do a call 3 to 7 days before the client closes and just run through stuff like you were seeing me run through on here. Like, hey, landscaping team in this area. I got a couple of quotes off of ChatGPT. They literally, dug into people's external reports that showcase how much are they charging per square foot to rip out grass and replace it with if a foundation needs to be beneath the soil and then the astroturf or the reverse order depending upon the soil type for the area that you're closing in. They charge $8. Well, that would be super low. $15 per square foot, all the way up to $35 per square foot. So you, depending upon the size of the putting green that you install, it could be anywhere from like $6,000 to $15,000 out here, parts, labor included. Same thing for the fire pit. Most of our co-hosts actually have general contractors that clients have used in the past in that area. So oftentimes we already have like a short list or a Rolodex of people to use for the general contracting work or the landscaping work. And oftentimes if it's, an area where nobody's used somebody recently and the co-host doesn't have somebody top of mind, looking on Angie's List and a couple other platforms where you can find GCs or landscaping teams, it's overall pretty easy, and oftentimes their work is showcased. And I always say, like, pay a premium for good work. You're going to feel it every month when you have income coming in, and you'll also feel it when you don't. So I would, the energy level is super high post-close. You're gung-ho on doing all the improvements, the enhancements, like just do good work right out of the game. And then Kissimmee Davenport, we close on a lot of homes out there. It's not necessarily a saturated market. It is very competitive. What you really need to dial in is just looking within your submarkets, seeing what the revenue driving amenities and enhancements are. In that area is a very different game from somewhere like Austin or Seaverville, where we were just underwriting now. So for example, we have a lot of clients who do 7, 8, 9 bedroom homes in those areas. Around 50% of our clients, they do drop a very aggressive enhancement budget for design work. Like I'm talking custom wall decals, custom furniture, Minnie Mouse, Disney, Frozen, Toy Story, Star Wars, you name it, like those types of themed rooms for kids aged 3 to 13. And then some enhancements to like the living room, dining room, loft areas where they do movie theater rooms, like custom movie theater rooms. That's one route. The route that I personally really like is we have a number of clients who they're also adults who just travel to Disney with like maybe no kids, or if they do have kids, like their kids are over the age of 11. They don't give a shit about Disney. They don't want any of that cute stuff. I'm too old, too cool for Frozen. So one of the secret pockets for performance in that area is if you can get like 7, 8, or 9 bedroom homes and just design and theme the whole thing for like adults and older adolescent kids who aren't really that interested in Frozen, Disney, Star Wars, you name it, they've outgrown that stuff. That's a super killer like sub market, but you have to lean in fully to the theme or the design of the home with it, which oftentimes is pretty easy. It's literally just adding in like things that you would add in any other Airbnb. Accent walls, making the bedrooms look more impressive. If you want to add in game rooms that are more adult oriented, but like oriented towards non-kids, if that makes sense. So I love that market. I think it's great to compete in. What's really nice about it is when you pull up an underwrite like I did, you can look at 30 to 40 homes in that submarket and stuff in like the 65, 70th, 75th, 80th, 85th percentile. There's always 1 or 2 homes that are clearly themed, not for kids, and they're doing quite well. And there's plenty of demand to support another home just like that, crawling into that area and still doing quite well. So Kissimmee, Davenport, you can go either direction, but so long as you're really looking at comps well and then committing to one approach or the other, you really can't go wrong. Was that useful, Nick?
Yeah, super useful. So I think what you're saying is it's not the market, it's the type of property you have in that market.
I mean, it's always the supply and demand curve. Like, for example, the Seaverville home, if you saw me underwriting that one, almost all of these cabins, They're like very similar, if not almost identical builds. There are slight differentiators, though. The unique amenities in the backyards, the views for the balconies, the quality of the kitchen, probably somewhat in that order. Really, the backyard amenities, maybe view, depending on how impressive the view is. But yeah, it's just, you got to look. Like, you got to do this process either on your own or with a team like ours. We have 7 people on the team who I train regularly to do that all day. And we find right now we're actually in a really good position. We're finding like 3 to 5 really killer deals per day on average, and then sharing those with clients. And that's pretty good for us. We actually, interestingly enough, we dropped the volume of deals that we're looking at in half, but we're more aggressively disqualifying homes right out of the gate. So now that yield equation, or that yield formula that I did just now, we really are like doing that right out of the gate and aggressively disqualifying like even more stuff earlier in the process. And it made everybody else more efficient. But the ultimate throughput for the final litmus test, which is, does this deal work in what I present it to clients, it actually doubled. Dave Cook, any thoughts on the Broken Bow market? I have a lot of thoughts on the Broken Bow market. It's a phenomenal market. It has not slowed down with new developers building new stuff for like 6 years straight. So we started buying stuff out there 2 years ago, summer of 2023. Fortunately, clients are doing pretty well. Joe, who's a client of ours, I just spoke with him Monday. He's actually doing really well with his Santa Rosa Beach property and his Broken Bow spot. I do see a trend. The 4 or 5 bedrooms out there are doing really, really well. The 3 bedrooms, that is probably a super competitive sub-market right now. I really won't encourage any clients to buy anything else that's a 3-bedroom out there. There are still developers building new, nice 3-bedroom cabins. It's very hard to compete out there right now. So yeah, seems saturated. I have 2 cabins and my PM says over 4K cabins and growing. I mean, saturation is an interesting label. It's a supply-demand curve always. There is a lot of demand in Broken Bow, and I think whether that casino that recently got built or is in process is live or isn't yet live, or if another one is coming, I think there's a lot of demand. But I think what's interesting about Broken Bow, I actually like it overall as a market, because if you do the revenue-driving amenity things, like, again, you can't go wrong with mini putting green, fire pit, and then maybe a sauna, depending upon if barrel saunas convert well out there, or if a smaller one inside the home or just adjacent to the home can convert. Dude, it's anybody's market out there to compete with. I think if you do that revenue driving amenity add-ons, you will do quite well. So Dave, depending upon what size your cabins are and what the terrain outside the home looks like, oh bro, I would 100% recommend do the fire pit and the mini putting green like this week. Like, no joke. You still have a few weeks left on the summer months, and then I would have I would really lean into, like, overpay a photographer to do a 2-day photo shoot at your place. Have them show up, walk the property, start organizing stuff and restaging, and then have them go to whatever the local party supply store is, get the bougie napkins, bougie wine glasses, charcuterie board, fake cheese, real cheese, have them go to, Aldi or whatever and get like blueberries, raspberries, cheeses, wines, just everything. And have them retake the photos as well once you get the backyard amenities live out there. But yeah, I have a client who he's been suspiciously quiet the last 2 months, and I think I know why. He closed on a home like 7 months ago. He's like, man, I really got to sell this thing. I was like, dude, I think you're way better just dropping 15 to 35,000 on some backyard amenity enhancements plus a sauna. And the saunas can get, depending if you're buying a barrel sauna, like those can be like 16 grand, but they're worth it because he's got a killer view, and you could literally orient the sauna with a glass side window, literally overlooking this massive, like almost hilly mountain range. So I think he did it because I haven't heard from him in 2 months. So I think he's crushing, but we'll see. You were saying it's opening and helping, but seems larger cabins perform better. Yeah, heads and beds, exactly. So like Joe's spot, for example, I think is one of the more unique 4 bedrooms out there. He's just crushing. And he and Lisa, his spouse, they do pretty well with the design stuff too. Just put in pool and helps. Yeah, that's another unique revenue driver or unique amenity revenue driver for sure. I'd be curious, drop in the chat if you're comfortable sharing. Was it above ground, underground? How much did you pay? What was the lining type? Because I don't know if that's going to be like a 1-to-1 ratio. If you spend 70 grand on a pool, I don't really think you're going to add 70K in revenue. But for people who do the fire pits and the putting greens, depending upon the market, 14 to 25 grand all in. Oh yeah, that's like a 1-to-1. Like it'll bump the revenue close to 14 to 25 grand per year, depending upon the market. Very interested in Emerald Coast, Gulf Shores versus Destin Seaside. Gulf Shores is Alabama, and then Destin Seaside is 38 Panhandle. I like Santa Rosa Beach. I like Miramar Beach. I think we find better stuff in the $750 to $1.3 million range. Gulf Shores is just trickier. There is sometimes inventory, but we always find more better stuff in Santa Rosa Beach. But if you're looking on your own, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Just nail the underwriting process. Whew, we're 36 minutes in. Anything else you guys want to dive into before we go more towards the material participation, bonus depreciation, how to reverse engineer stuff? And I'm going to pull up the iPad for that one. Any final thoughts from you guys before we officially switch over? Melissa, you good? Alex, you good? Amin, you good? Dave, Karen, saving lives. Nick, are you good on that? Jerry, Ravi, I think that's you. I can't tell. But yeah, anything else? Dave, Melissa, Nick?
While we're talking about markets, like this Asheville market, they had this big hurricane and stuff. And I see there are some good deals there because like it's also struggling. Like, would you recommend going there, like going into that now or just waiting it out?
Honestly, I haven't underwritten anything in Asheville recently, so I wouldn't know. We really don't touch North Carolina, to be honest. We find better stuff elsewhere.
Have you, yeah, and then similarly, have you looked at like South Florida at all, or have you kind of just stayed on the Gulf Coast more?
Like Southeast Florida, like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Hallandale, Hollywood. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, we find a lot of good stuff in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, honestly, the cash on cash return looks a lot better in Santa Rosa Beach, Panama City Beach, Destin, Miramar Beach versus what we're seeing down there. The interesting thing about Fort Lauderdale is a lot of the stuff we typically find out there, it's also unfurnished. So it's like the post-close enhancements that we suggest for clients are like 60 to 70 grand. And for some of those designers, it'll take like 3 to 6 weeks just to get the furniture stood up and all the design work done. So for them, most of my clients aren't really interested in going that hard. They typically try to optimize for taking over stuff that's already been live and is fully furnished. But yeah, we still find stuff that works. If anybody, and by the way, if anybody joins the program and they're really, really keen on like, hey, what's this market looking like right now? It takes a team member of me like 30 minutes to pull up maybe like 5 or 6 deals on Zillow or another platform, pull up the comps on AirDNA, and then take a dive and then see what kind of yield numbers we're producing. So recall at the beginning of the call, I talked about what a 15% yield, like the minimum threshold needs to be for revenue performance. And then we'll just see if there's any inventory that's even available right now that can hit those numbers and make it make sense. That market has been coming down in price a little bit. I think it needs to correct a little bit harder still before we like really index more time, energy, and attention from our team to like source stuff there consistently. So there's some stuff that works, but like we just get a better return on time in our other like 5 or 6 markets. The other 2 cities in Florida, Austin and Dallas, the Smoky Mountains, Glendale and Arizona. That's where we're finding most of our best stuff right now.
Have you seen these brokers that are offering combination DSCR seller financing, especially in Broken Bow, where you're walking out with cash? I mean, is that how do they make those numbers work? And is that anything that can cash flow in general, or do you recommend to stay away from those options? It raises red flags. And why
yeah. No, it's definitely not a red flag at all. In fact, that's what we labeled as a seller carryback deal in our program. So Pace Morby was the one who pioneered that whole approach. I'm gonna quickly pull up my iPad and see if I can find one of my drawings where I highlight this. I'm pretty sure I drew it somewhere in here. Let me see if I can. I'll just show you what a seller carryback looks like. Maybe while I'm trying to pull this up, I will not have a billion things on my screen. How about that? Wouldn't that be nice if I didn't have all this on here? Let me just stop sharing really quick. So what a seller carryback, and who was that asked, by the way? I'm sorry, I couldn't see your name.
Melissa.
Oh, what's up, Melissa?
So hey, yeah, all good. What Melissa is referring to, a seller carryback as we label it, or a Morby method as Pace Morby labeled it, and then we actually did more Morby methods for clients than I think anybody in Pace's group has done. So we labeled it as a seller carryback method. It's a conventional loan product, so maybe a DSCR loan or another loan product for 20-25% down plus 4 to 6.5% in closing costs, whatever it amounts to. And somebody would, hey David, I'll just throw you on mute really quickly. Hey, all good. And then we would close on that conventionally. So like a normal close, an investment loan product. And then on top of that, a seller would also agree to seller finance a portion of the home, meaning they will also give a promissory note to the buyer and basically be the bank, so that the buyer now holds two notes, one with the mortgage company and the bank that they used to fund the first position note on the home, and then also this one in a separate closing as a seller finance note. Why would a seller do that? It's typically either a very affluent seller who is very interested in not getting all their proceeds that are owed to them today, for the purpose of shielding the amount of proceeds that they receive and thereby not paying capital gains tax on that dollar amount today. So they can come up with, over the next maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years, a strategy, maybe through a blend of charitable foundations or a donor authorized fund, or even a trust structure where they can compliantly receive those remainder funds at a later date but not be taxed at them. In this Melissa example specifically for Broken Bow, what a lot of construction or development teams are doing is they will sell that note immediately. So they might sell or finance the entire property to you. And they might have, they might sell it for like $1,050,000, $150,000 down payment, and then like a $900,000 seller finance note. Well, they might take that seller finance note and sell that debt to somebody who will buy it for $800,000, $825,000, $850,000. So they're guaranteed, an extra like $7,000 over 5 years, because there's typically like a 5-year balloon payment, and that's pretty good return. Put 800 in, get 750 out, or 75 out, or whatever the numbers are. Maybe they have to aggressively buy it a little lower than that. But that's why either a seller or a developer would probably do a seller carryback deal based on our conversations with a lot of those people. Is there anything sketchy or wrong with that? No, not at all. There isn't any reason that you should be concerned, like, hey, why would the seller want to not get all their proceeds today? It just depends. It depends on their scenario that they're in. Oftentimes, super affluent sellers who have held homes for 15 plus years, 20 plus years sometimes, and the home is maybe doubled, tripled in purchase price or 1.5x, and they've also paid down a lot or almost all of their debt. They might not want to, write a check to the IRS if they have like, $1 million gain. They're writing a check for at least $210,000 of capital gains tax, plus some property transfer tax, plus some other taxes, and that number adds up pretty quickly. But for Broken Bow, I would just say I wouldn't even try and buy anything out there right now unless it's a 4 or 5 bedroom that's super unique, and you clearly, run your AirDNA comps and then like analyze and recognize, oh yeah, this home's going to cash flow positive. The downside also with those seller carryback deals is, yeah, you're literally getting more cash in your bank account the day after you close than what you started with. So you might wire $250,000 in to close. That goes to the title company. It sits in the escrow account, and the bank funds, let's say $800,000. So there's $1,050,000 sitting in that title company's escrow account. And then 2 days later, they release the funds, but they don't release $1 million for $1 million purchase price. They don't release $1 million to the seller. They'll release maybe $700,000 to the seller and 30% of that purchase price, $300,000, back to the buyer. So Melissa might wire $250,000 all in, and then 2 days later get $300,000 back. It's like, dude, all day, why wouldn't I do deals like this? I get cash flow. I put no money in. This is awesome. Well, the downside is you're over leveraged. You have more debt than equity in the home, or you literally have more debt than the property is worth. So in this scenario, Melissa has 2 notes. She has an $800,000 note with her DSCR lender or other lender, and a $300,000 promissory note with the seller. So there's $1.1 million in debt on the home, and it's only worth $1 million. So in the long term, it delays the timeline on which Melissa can either sell the home without needing to write a check to sell the home, or do a cash out refi, which would probably be a more likely scenario. You'd probably want to buy something in Broken Bow and hang on to it for quite some time, and pull her equity out. So it just delays the rate at which you can do this snowball effect game. The only times I really encourage clients to do seller carryback deals is if they have like higher income and they don't have much cash on hand. Not meaning that they're cash poor. It's just that they might have recently bought a business, or they might have, thrown money into crypto, which, I mean, there's a YOLO. There's a great time to be throwing stuff into Bitcoin, Ethereum, your mid caps, your micro caps, all your caps. So I have clients who are recognizing like, hey, I think I can actually get better returns, dropping 200K on this and maybe like literally having a chance to 2x in the next 6 months. It's also very risky. So they might want to deploy less of their cash that's available right now, still get the high internal rate of return by buying a deal that has 300K in bonus depreciation. It gives them a net effective tax savings of maybe 110, 120, 130,000, and they put no money into the deal. And this is maybe a perfect segue into that topic that person asked, how do you reverse engineer this stuff? Just a quick back of napkin math. I think I did actually talk about this on the call yesterday. So I'll quickly pull up the iPad. While I transition into that, Melissa, did that make sense for the carryback deals? Should you or should you not do one? Should you be concerned about broken bow? And now I'll just segue into the bonus depreciation, how to reverse engineer stuff, because I did do that on the call yesterday. Did that make sense? Anything else you want to dive into there?
No.
All good? You sure? You sure? Okay. If you had to explain it to me, could you explain it?
Yes, I could. I mean, I think the main point is that you're over leveraged and
Right.
you're at higher risk of defaulting if your cash flow gets screwed up for some reason.
Yep.
Because obviously
One element, for sure.
your interest and principal payments are.
Yeah, you just have more monthly payments. Or sometimes sellers will do a seller finance note with no monthly payments, but it's wrapped into like the balloon payment that's due, 5-7 years from now, maybe 10 years from now. Let's start with David's rejoining. So let's go through this one. So what are you trying to optimize for? I mean, let's start from the top. So just a quick synopsis, why short-term rentals, why now? I mean, obviously with the bonus depreciation stuff that just came back, there's even more incentive for you to, recognize you're on this left-hand side, you make $400 a year, household makes $600 a year, $1 million plus a year, and then you end up, unfortunately, here, or here, after your federal tax and then maybe your state tax. So instead of staying stuck here, being overworked, stressed, no free time, obviously all you guys are thinking about retirement, trying to accelerate the retirement timeline, instead of funding inefficient governments, like you're doing in this example where Jeff is just wiring money to the IRS, what if you could compliantly just buy real estate instead and focus more of your time, energy, and attention on building your retirement portfolio that offsets your taxable income? So that instead of funding, $1.5 million in a tax bill over the next 10 years, what if you just plug that into your real estate portfolio, and then eventually this thing starts funding all your other deals and having so many options to retire faster, to get off the stupid hamster wheel. We call it the wealthy hamster wheel. And then, of course, this ChatGPT image from Warren, Uncle Warren, greatest quote of all time. Rule number 1 is this. Rule number 2 is see rule number 1. Just anything you can do to not lose money. And the biggest thing that you guys are doing right now is losing money on your tax bills. Let me give 1 second as I mute somebody who's talking here. Hey, would you forget to mute yourself here? David, I'm just throwing you on mute. No hard feelings. All right, let's keep going. So here's what you guys are trying to do, right? You guys are trying to obviously buy something here. And then instead of, being the red to red, this scenario where you guys are just, making a lot of money and then losing a lot of money, a more realistic scenario is something like this, where you're buying something, keeping most of your income, and then obviously with the cash flow, the tax benefits, the appreciation, you're in a very different position in life, and it feels quite good to do this. So this is the example that I've given in other videos. For the person who asked, how do we reverse engineer what a typical amount looks like? Let's go through this, and then I'll try and find some white space in this presentation and just draw. So 3 things to get clear on. Bonus depreciation is certainly that thing that you get when you purchase an asset that qualifies within certain guidelines for some sort of offset, and that is what can be bonus depreciated if you're using it for an active income or non-passive business activity. So a very classic example of this is most machinery, equipment, vehicles over 600,000 pounds. If you're purchasing them for business use, you can write off 100% of that purchase price and also accelerate 100% of that amount into the first year, because there's a thing called a estimated lifespan, and the IRS has different guidelines, whether they're realistic or not. They say vehicles and heavy machinery, on average, it has a 1-year lifespan. Why is that? Well, you have forklifts that can, you can literally like slide this thing off a truck and something goes wrong with this. It's in the shop for 6 months out of the year. Like that thing isn't, useful and doesn't have a useful lifespan if it's so regularly out of commission. Same thing with vehicles. If you pop a tire, if you have a truck that needs maintenance, if you have something that needs to be repaired regularly. Well, the IRS has different guidelines for how they dictate at what stage, at what lifespan does this thing have, and at what rate can you depreciate it? So for short-term rentals in real estate, around 25 to 35% of the total purchase price is typically what you can accelerate to year one, depending upon the land value. Another way of thinking about this is if you buy $1 million home and you back out the land value, around 40 to maybe 55% of everything else that is associated with everything above the ground level for that home, you can roughly accelerate to year one for bonus depreciation. And I'll go through an example that I drew out yesterday. A cost segregation study is that thing that a cost segregation study company will order, show up at the home, literally take photos of everything, including the walls, the roof, the appliances, everything that's bolted to the floor, bolted to the walls, so that if you were to theoretically take the home and flip it upside down, everything that didn't fall to the floor is going to show up somewhere on this cost segregation study, and that company is going to spit back a value typically between 40 to 60% of whatever the total appraised value of the home is, not including the land value, or another even more rough back of napkin math thing, around 25 to 35% of the total purchase price. We definitely have clients who see some stuff that etches below like 25% of the total purchase price, like 21, 22% of purchase price. And we also have stuff that, indexes way higher. When we buy condos in Florida that are 20 stories in the air and there's no land value associated with that purchase, $1 million condo out there might have like $400,000 to $550,000 worth of bonus depreciation in year one. So it all depends. And then material participation is that thing for you guys. So whoever asked, I think it was Dave, very, very straightforward and simple for somebody who is a high-income earner but also W-2 full-time. You can absolutely qualify for the 100-hour rule. So I think, let me see. So this is an example of me drawing out. It's very complex now that I have already drawn everything. But everything in the home, this is just for cost segs, everything in the home gets assessed a lifespan estimated value. So this box that I'm drawing, everything falls under a category. I think some of these categories don't exist. It might be the 1 year and the 7 year stuff that doesn't exist. But I think most stuff falls into a 5, 15, or 30 year category. Everything that is 15 and under can get accelerated to year one. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a CPA, not licensed tax advice. You should always consult your CPA, always consult your cost seg study team who's doing this for you. But most everything that is under a 15-year lifespan, the IRS will allow you on that cost segregation study to accelerate the full estimated value of that asset, that thing, that appliance, that wall, that roof, that whatever, into year one. Roofs have longer than 15-year lifespans, typically. So that's why they fall under this 30-year category one. So here was an example that I gave, a $949,000 purchase price minus $200,000 of land value. That means the assessed value of everything that isn't the land is $749,000. So if you take somewhere between 30 to 50% of this value right here, that means it's spitting out, let's just say 40 was the middle of the pack, $299,000 in bonus depreciation for this $949,000 purchase price home. That's kind of also within our 25 to 35% of the total purchase price rough value of the home. So I've given this Peter example. This is the exact example I used, like $949K purchase price, land was $200,000. They assessed everything. He was somewhere between 30 to 50 of everything else that was assessed. It was around 40%. So he got $299K in bonus depreciation. For the person who asked, I think I have this drawn out somewhere here. Let me just flip to that drawing. Was the material participation stuff. Let me quickly pull it up because I drew this out yesterday. I think it's this one right here. Okay. So there are 3 types of real estate professional status. The 2,000-hour rule is a 2,000-hour full-time real estate professional status. That one you guys aren't going to get. Those are people like me, like realtors, like brokers, like people who are 100% doing real estate full-time. Lenders, co-host companies, you name it. Another one that some people do try and qualify for is 750 hours per year. It's typically somebody's spouse who doesn't have any full-time work because it has to be like the rule is like 15 hours a week on average and no other full-time commitments. So you basically have to be retired or a spouse, no other work except just doing real estate. So no other full-time job stuff. And then doing 15 hours a week. I'm not a big fan of that one. I think the 500-hour one, also not a fan of because you also have to like pretty much do materially everything in the business, which is, no bueno for you guys. You guys are all high-income W-2, 1099, you run your own business type people. The 100-hour rule states 3 things, and that's what the 3 criteria that I'm going to show on the screen are here. And then, by the way, I'm not a CPA. I'm not a licensed tax advisor. I try not to give one-to-one tax advice or counsel or guidance. This is just general anecdotal stuff that you can find online. I'm just conveying stuff that if you ask ChatGPT, if you read Section 469, if you read Section 179, you're probably going to uncover this stuff. And I would encourage you to do that because, again, I'm not a CPA. I'm not a licensed tax advisor. Just making the disclaimer clear. There are 3 criteria which are pretty black and white. Number 1 is the home needs to be launched in service and actually ran as a short-term rental this calendar year. So if you're buying something in 2025, you got to launch it in 2025 and you got to take the bonus depreciation in 2025. Number 2 is you actually have to run it as a short-term rental. It's got to be on average 7 days or less for stays at the home. So what does that mean? Is I got to mute somebody else here. Who's this? Melissa. I got to mute you real quick. Hey, real quick. All right. So you got to run it for, on average, a short-term rental. So if you're running it as a long-term rental, that's one tenant for 365 days. That's not less than 7 days. If you're running it as a medium-term rental and people are staying 15 to 90 days at a time, that's not a short-term rental. 90% of your guests will stay 1, 2, 3, or 4 nights, so no problem there. And then 1 out of every 10 stays, it might be 3 to 7 days. You'll probably rarely have anybody who even stays more than 7 days. So you have no issues on this. So number 1, number 2, super easy. Number 3 is where everybody gets confused. 100 hours and no less than any one individual. What does that mean? You have to materially participate at least 100 hours and no less than any other one individual. Let's use a real-time example. Let's say today, as of this recording, it's July 9th. You guys buy a home right now, today. Congratulations. You just closed. Let's say you get this thing live August 1. For August 1 of this year until December 31st, that is August, September, October, November, December. That is 5 months, okay? 5 months' time. What does that look like? Let's go through the 2 teams that will participate substantially in the business. And let's start with cleaning teams. I drew this out example yesterday, so guys, I'm sorry if this is really hard to read. But hopefully you're following. Throw an 8 in the chat if you're following. Throw a 7 if you're completely lost. And then I'll pause before we end the call. Cleaning teams. Let's say you have on average 6 stays per month. And you have a cleaning team who they don't clean the home in an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. Let's say 3 hours per clean. Let's say they're just taking their sweet time. Well, that one individual on that same cleaning team who showed up to every clean, let's say they're doing 18 hours a month. Well, if they're doing it for the next 5 months, that means they're spending 90 hours materially participating in the business. Okay, that's not even 100 hours, so you don't need to worry about that. Let's go through another co-host team as an example. So most co-host teams, they're typically a founder or 2 co-founders, 1 or 2 people who are like revenue managers. So they sit in AirDNA, Price Labs, Airbnb, VRBO, and they're just updating the pricing, updating the listing, trying to maximize the occupancy and the revenue that they can get. Well, let's just use an extreme example. Let's say there's somebody on the team who literally spends 1 hour per day, every day, working on your business, which is unrealistic. But let's use the most aggressive examples. There are 22 business days in a month. Let's say Monday through Friday, every day, they fire up their computer, turn off everything else they're doing, and only focus on your business. So they're doing 22 hours per month. And over 5 months, they're doing 110 hours. All you guys need to do is make sure that you're consistent or clearly contributing more than 110 hours. So what do most people organically do? Once you close on a home, you'll typically spend an extended 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5 day weekend. So if you're going to the property and you're spending 16 waking hours because you're asleep for 8 hours, and outside of maybe 4, 5, 6 hours a day for eating, drinking, bathroom, chilling, driving and chilling and exploring and having fun, maybe you're doing 10 to 11 hours a day, and maybe you're doing it with your spouse. That's 20 to 22 hours a day. If you go for a 3-day weekend, that's 60 to 66 hours. If you make it 4, it's 80 something to 80 something, or 80 to 90, right? If you go for longer than that, you've already done 100 hours. When you're back from the property and you're not, working on design stuff, managing the general contractors, managing the landscaping team who are out there, you're probably checking the Airbnb app 1 to 3 hours a day, typically. Or I'm sorry, 1 to 3 hours a week. Jesus Christ. 1 to 3 hours per week. Typically doing things like I'm looking at, guest communication. I'm overseeing and maybe micromanaging your co-host team a little bit just to catch and make sure that they're on top of stuff. Because if you can screenshot, some of this communication with your co-host team where you're like, hey, we caught that Erica on the team sent the wrong guide to somebody who's asking, hey, where's the guide for, how to get to this place in Austin? What are the fun things to do? All the other stuff you typically provide your guests. You guys will comfortably probably log anywhere from 6 to 20 hours a month in the first 2 or 3 months, where you're a little more like, oh, this is my baby. We just launched it. We're spending more time opening up the app, looking at stuff, talking to other people who are also managing the property, and then just being a managerial role, which you're probably doing for just about everything once you close on the home. Most people, I would say, comfortably log anywhere from 120 to like 220 plus hours in the first year that they manage something. So we are out of time. Did you guys like that? Can I get some feedback from you guys really quickly? Because I am curious if these are valuable. I'll probably, hopefully all of you guys sign up and start working with us. But for the next generation of people and the next wave of people who are like, hey, I think I'm interested in doing this, I might have to host another call like this for them. Feedback, anything that you guys liked that you thought went well, anything that could and should be better, anything that you guys would like to see differently if you were to show up to another one of these. I'd really love some feedback. You guys can throw it in the chat or email me or just take yourself off mute.
Very valuable and fantastic session, Nick. Thank you so much. Got a lot out of it.
Cool. I'd love to get a lot out of your wallet and work with you. Not joking. Kind of joking, but not joking. If you guys are interested in working with us, it's a pretty significant value add for what we do. It's an expensive program, but price is what you pay and value is what you get. I think we have a very asymmetrical price to value delivery. So if you guys are interested, I'll send everybody a link to schedule. And then tomorrow I'll try and get you guys the recording. Today I should be launching the recording from yesterday. So if you guys are on my email list, I will probably have Sophia make sure that you guys get a copy of that as well. And then you guys will hopefully see that later this afternoon. I got to bounce, guys. I will need to kick you all out of here. But it was great connecting with you. David, it was great to meet you. I think this was the first time we communicated. Nick, same thing. Ravi, Jerry, Karen. Karen, I already spoke with you. Amin, it was great to see you again. I hope we get started soon. Seif, it was great to meet you as well. Yep. If you guys need anything else, just let me know. And once we get this recording live, we'll also probably just push it to you guys as well. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, can I get a real quick question in?
If it's real quick, like 10 seconds. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, sorry. So can you get the material participation in the first year, get your bonus, all that in, and then the next year you don't do it? Or is that throw it off flags?
The IRS only cares about year one. Yeah, it's only year one. After that, you're not reporting anything. You're not logging anything. Yep.
Okay. So if you can get it done year one, then you're not worried. Okay.
It is only year one. It is the first calendar year from January 1 to December 31. Nothing else matters.
Okay. I think
so next year you can run it as a short-term rental. You don't need to log any hours. You don't need to participate in any capacity. You can
just hand it all over to the project man. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Yes, sir. See you guys. I got to kick you all out. Peace.